Well, ladies and gentlemen, you successfully survived August, one of the worst performing months historically for Bitcoin. Unfortunately, we now have historically the worst month ahead of us, which is September. And traditional markets, September is known as kind of a perilous month. Certainly a month that sees headwinds towards markets. And this goes right the way back to when markets were largely agricultural. And that's the reason why crypto's having a kind of fatiguing time, or inducing a fatiguing time for many of its investors. However, really what we like to slip in every daily market update is the understanding that the bigger trajectory, or the broader trajectory for crypto, is an unbelievable one. It's going to fundamentally change the world in the same way that the internet has. We get confirmation of that across the board. It's just a case of positioning early, which unfortunately you suffer ridicule and volatility as a result of, to sort of reap the rewards at a later date. The person laughing last is always the person laughing the longest. And that's how we're positioned for this sort of technological revolution that's going to induce a major wealth transfer. And that's what technologies do. Whenever they're introduced to us, they essentially create businesses around a technology. If it's an impactful technology that embeds itself in the world, what happens around those businesses and that technology itself is a great wealth formation. And I think crypto it is on that similar trajectory, potentially at a bigger scale. Yesterday we looked at some sort of $100 trillion market cap estimates for crypto going beyond 2030. But back to the topic at hand, back to the sort of more immediate time frames, not the bigger trajectory, which is why you should be investing in this technology. You have survived August. It's played out true to historic fashion for Bitcoin, and thus put sort of a weight on the broader crypto market's shoulders. We now have September, which is the worst performing month for Bitcoin and typically the traditional markets. Despite all this, Ethereum actually had a pretty sensational Q3 and is having a sensational Q3, the best Q3 it's ever had. And we will look at some inflows in just a second. But despite, let's just call it a lackluster August, crypto's still in great standing. I just believe this is a pullback in a broader uptrend. Obviously, we have a lot of technical merit to expect Bitcoin to get to $306,000 or over that $300,000 range. Now is not the time to be bearish on the crypto space, certainly as you have the total cryptocurrency market cap literally on the cusp of price discovery, and it's going to be pretty momentous. If a chart breaks into a new all-time high, it's very likely that you're going to get continuation from that high. I suppose we should probably bring in the trad markets, the S&P 500. We've obviously used this as a reasoning to expect a new bull to be in, having retraced the 21% pullback on the back end of Trump's tariffs. This is a little, markets, obviously US markets because it's Labor Day are closed today. This is a little toppy, and you might get a bit of a correction here that could lean on the cryptocurrency market. So I would, as a base case, expect September to be choppy, a little bit treacherous, or certainly face some headwinds, see crypto face some headwinds. However, that's literally going to take you into the best performing months of the year, being October, November. You want to hang on for that. Remember the sensational November that we had. Something like HBAR for us did 800% the last year. I can't believe it's a year already. I think we're looking at a similar end to this year. And you want to be holding on for that. And of course, the broader trajectory that we just spoke on as it relates to the crypto space. So do not fear, all the cryptos here. September, we'll see what it brings. For me, and life's all about perspective, I don't mind pullbacks because I'm going to continue to accumulate technologies that I think are fundamentally going to change the world, like some of the ones that we talk about here on this channel. And never forget that, despite fatigue-inducing price action. I think I see a lot of people venting that are crypto participants and just saying irrational things. And I think that just comes from frustration. It's definitely not our assessment that the top for the cryptocurrency space is in. Certainly not at the moment. We're not seeing anything to give us some confirmation that that's the case. Let's do what we like to do on a Monday, and that's look at CoinShares digital asset fund flows. Now, this tracks the ETPs in Europe and further afield, the ETNs in the UK, and obviously the ETFs in America and also further afield. And it tracks the flows in and out of them. And it's a good way to see what kind of perhaps more traditional money is doing as it relates to the cryptocurrency space. So the US saw $4.37 billion in inflows for August, or $4.3 billion US dollars of inflows in August. Ethereum obviously continues to dominate Bitcoin. Again, we spoke about this giving way to a broader alt season. We see that with BTC dominance starting to roll and now entering a broader downtrend. We also see that with ETH dominance, ETH BTC, and certainly some of the positioning of altcoins. They really look primed despite having to sort of battle with the kind of price action that we're getting for the crypto markets in typically turbulent months being August, September. So you can see this is the weekly flows. It's a digital asset inflows of $2.48 billion last week, lifting August's inflows to $4.37 billion and year to date to $35.5 billion, though AUM slipped 10% to $219 billion. So assets under management. The US led with 2.29, while Switzerland, Germany, and Canada also saw gains, suggesting simple profit taking behind Friday's outflows. Ethereum led with 1.4 billion versus Bitcoin's 748 million. For August, Ethereum added $3.95 billion, whilst Bitcoin lost 301 million, with Solana and XRP boosted by US ETF optimism. XRP is the fastest ever CME futures ever, including out of Bitcoin and Ethereum, to get to $1 billion. And the demand you're going to see for an XRP ETF, certainly now we've got regulatory clarity and we're going to start to see people come out of the woodworks in regards to partnerships with XRP. We're going to talk about XRP in just a second because Litecoin, I think, being very distasteful on Twitter, but we'll talk about that and kind of launching an attack on XRP. XRP is going to blow people away. I think Solana actually will as well in terms of expectations on ETFs. They're always typically underestimated and overperform. Again, Bitcoin, best performing ETF in history. Ethereum right behind it in that third spot, only to two BTC ETFs. I wouldn't be surprised if XRP actually outperforms Ethereum in terms of time, maybe even Bitcoin. You heard that first here on the channel. So you can see these are where the flows came from, a majority dominated by BlackRock. Then, of course, you've got obviously Grayscale, Fidelity, 21 shares, who we're friendly with. You've got then Bitcoin, Ethereum, multi-assets, Solana, and XRP just doing phenomenally, considering they don't even have ETFs in the United States, which is, if you look at the flows, where the majority of them come from. Could be why people are using CMEs and other such things. And obviously the United States dominating. And this is the case. I mean, the United States is 98% probably of inflows. And altcoins are shut off from that market as of right now. So digital asset investment products rebounded from the previous week's outflows, recording inflows of $2.4 billion. August alone has now seen a total of inflows of $4.37 billion, bringing the year-to-date inflows to $35.5 billion. Talks about sort of PCE data and things like this. A lot of double-edged swords right now in regards to economic data. Regionally, the US dominated once again. Of course, we know this to be the case, and historically. Ethereum continues to outperform Bitcoin, sort of signaling, in my opinion, a broader alt season, attracting inflows of $1.4 billion versus Bitcoin's $748 million. For August, Ethereum has accumulated $3.95 billion in inflows, while Bitcoin recorded outflows of $301 million. Meanwhile, Solana and XRP continue to benefit from both optimism around potential US ETFs launches, with inflows of $117 million and $134 million respectively. You are going to see, this is a week's inflows. You're going to see, I believe these two actually probably outperform Ethereum in terms of time to get to $10 billion in assets under management. And remember, Allincrypto said that. Let's talk about, before we get on to something a little bit more macro and serious in regards to a kind of new monetary landscape evolving, and crypto definitely going to play a role in it. Let's talk about a post from Litecoin. I found this a little bit distasteful. And I'm not entirely sure. XRP probably one of the most hated assets in the crypto space, probably the number one, I would say. And that just makes me all the more zealous on it. because I can't wait for it to absolutely silence people. It's still the third largest cryptocurrency. I think actually it could overtake Ethereum potentially. And maybe even one day Bitcoin. We don't know. It depends on how successful it's going to be. But this is from Litecoin. Fun fact, a comet smells like rotten eggs, urine, burning matches, and almonds. Most scientists say the closest comparison to the phenomenon on Earth is the idea that tokens called XRP would be sold off to retail investors with the illusion that a digital bank drive-up tube is worth more than the money it transfers back and forth, because there are only so many tokens in existence and everyone will want one, because the banking system of the world have been quietly making deals for over a decade to make XRP the replacement for Swift, and the president is sleeping with Brad Garlic Mouse. I mean, I never call anybody out because it's not my game. You know, we could call a lot of people out. Believe me, some of the information that we've got and people have given to us, because I think they maybe see me as a decent-ish guy, which is what I'd like to think I am. But this is a really bad look and completely childish, dumb. It shows, I mean, jealousy is ugly. Have to admit, I've lost a lot of respect. They could have wrote this about any other token and I'd still be shedding the light on it. I've lost a lot of respect for Litecoin over this. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. I mean, how ridiculous. And clearly a jealous tweet, in my opinion. Let's talk about happenings in the global world of money. And I believe money and the monetary system as we have it today, which is the dollar and the SWIFT system, reigns supreme, certainly a dollar reserve system we live in, I think it's coming to an end. And I think it doesn't come to an end in the sense that the dollar goes away. It serves a role, the dollar, and is likely going to continue to be the biggest sort of traded FX pair. But its role is going to change. It's not going to be the sort of staple. In fact, because of DLTs, we now no longer lead the United States as a kind of umpire. We can trust technology. And this is going to open up an entirely new global monetary system. It's going to enable an entirely new global monetary system. And part of that is actually the dollar losing its status, if you will, its trade status. Not going away, but devaluing. The dollar is losing reserve currency status. It's down to 42% of global reserves, and gold is rapidly rising. And you're seeing a move in both gold, and I believe you're going to get an epic one for silver. You're seeing a move in silver, but it's nothing compared to where it's going. What's the context? I asked this one on Patreons last night. What's the context of that taking place? What's the context of a $600 silver or a $300 silver? I think $600 you're probably going to get in the future. Its role in the world, I think, being changed, and potentially with crypto, a lot of people are against tokenization of gold and silver, and I totally understand why. One of the properties of it is you can hold it yourself. You can actually be your own sort of bank as far as that's concerned. But if you tokenize it, you can essentially move on to like a gold standard again. And I'm not saying we're going to get that, but I'm saying we are seeing the role of the dollar change. And I believe the dollar is going to break out of a channel that it's been in since 2008 when crypto was introduced to us. And I think the reason the dollar's role changes is because we no longer need that umpire, if you will. We actually now have technology that can replace it. This is another one. This chart illustrates how central banks directly hold gold. Now, holdings of gold now exceed those of US Treasuries for the first time in something 30 years, is attracting significant attention. And this is only going to continue and be accelerated by crypto. And we're moving into this more fluid world for value, the internet of value, essentially given to us or enabled by distributed ledger technology. That's coming. That goes back to the thing that we spoke about at the start, not losing sight of the bigger vision here. Yes, we know price action is lackluster. Believe you me, we know it. We put our face out every single day talking about an industry that we love and we're passionate about. And I think a lot of people right now are probably just venting due to frustration. Personally, we've done very well off the space and we play with what we're given. And I think there's a great time ahead for cryptocurrency investors. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from me. I'm going to love and leave you all. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you all soon.